discussion, debate, pros, cons?
I don't see where it could be a bad thing.
I don't either.
It's just more transparency. People seeing you do your job. I mean, it's a good thing, I think.
Okay.
I think there's one, possibly two things that maybe need to be added to it. A date that these things will put on here, so that if we add things, you can see, you know.
Same thing.
Pardon?
7 years.
Rock and I are in agreement that that should be added.
And the other thing might be, it says for the SBC, the select board of the AABC should look into. Do we need to assign which board or who's looking at some of this stuff?
I think having a responsible party for each item should be included on that somehow.
But that would be the select board would make the decision as to who should and go forward with that piece.
I think so. And I think
As long as it's not a case of the proverbial flowing downhill, and it's here, the ABC can have all of it.
I'm sure there will be one or two fun things on there that the select board will want to keep for themselves.
Absolutely. And so perhaps when we've talked about this too, that perhaps the select board and either just you or beyond you need to sit down with the AABC and divvy this up.
That's fair enough.
Okay.
Yep.
Shouldn't some of the department heads be responsible for some of these?
They very well may be. If it happens to be, we need a preventive maintenance program for our DPW trucks, then that should be assigned to David. And that will be his responsibility, for example. So yeah, and with the AABC, it's not the goal to just saddle you guys with everything at all. It's to try to get the correct person to address them and be accountable for them.
Yeah, I just don't want to, be, well, it was yours, no, it was yours, that kind of thing, or, we're spinning our wheels because we're all working on the same thing and avoiding others, so.
That's why we put it out there in the blinding sunlight.
Maybe we have the ABC meeting tomorrow night?
I think I will be.
Okay.
I paused there because I'm really looking for somebody to volunteer to take up a couple of my meetings.
I wouldn't worry about Thursday night because I don't think there's going to be any, well, we're going to be talking about the fire truck, but that's about it. So if you come in and want to leave, that's fine, but we can at least, discuss this further. I think tomorrow night would be appropriate. So
That's fine, I will be there. Okay. Anything else on AABC?
that's it.
All right, Sylvia Conte. I spoke with the select board of Surrey last night, who has a long and storied history with the federal government coming in and purchasing and seizing land. Surrey Lake is 1,600 acres of land and 393 acres of water that was seized. People in Surrey still refer to 12A as the New Road. They remember that very well, and that occurred in 1942. So they were concerned about a few items that came up, and that seems to be the response from select boards that I've talked to thus far. Either next Monday or the Monday after next, I'll be in Richmond to talk to them about it too. We asked the New Hampshire Municipal Association for a legal opinion on the New Hampshire statute that basically spells out how much land can be owned by the federal government for the purposes of conservation. That's RSA 121:6. It states that no more than 5% of any town or 2% total of the state may be owned by the federal government. The response that we got back, I think at least Rock and I are somewhat confused by the rationale. And their rationale was this would be kind of completely legal because of U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, which is the Enclave Clause. This is the clause that created Washington, D.C. This grants the federal government the power to come in and establish land as a federal area. he says that because of this, and because 121:6 is simply an acknowledgement of the enclave clause, that the federal government in this case would not really exercise complete jurisdiction over that land. Now the fact that if I go to the Wapak Wildlife Refuge and try to have a picnic, I'm going to get a fine or a ticket, or I jogged, God forbid, I briskly walk at best, but that federal agents could give me a ticket, I find that pretty much complete control. So I think we're going to continue down the path of seeking other legal opinions on behalf of the town. And there are private citizens that are looking into this stuff as well, and I'm sure they will continue to do so.
Now, the difference in that, I mean, the federal government doesn't actually own all the land in D.C., right? There's private property owners in D.C.
Yes, but they own it and they own jurisdiction.
But
There are
these-
private property owners that pay tax to,
But it's apples and oranges with the Conte thing. We're talking about the federal government literally taking title to the land, owning the land. That's not what they do in D.C. I mean, they own some stuff, but
and he goes on to state that there's absolutely no way ever we would ever assess taxes against federally owned lands. And that is, yes, that's part of the issue. That's what we as a town have concerns about.
But we don't have to say yes to this program, is that correct?
No. We don't have to do anything because it is what it is. What I think we're trying to decide is whether or not we want to fight this and challenge it based on New Hampshire law with the Attorney General and say, would you enforce this? And if the answer is no, then what alternatives are there to be? And will other towns that are also concerned about losing up to 52% of their tax base, for lack of a better word, are they interested in joining us in that? So this does not mean that Alstead will be taking this case to the highest courts in the land or anything like that. We really want to understand it. And Fish and Wildlife has been non-cooperative at best. They've been slow or non-existent to respond. I was told I'd be getting calls back from their legal team a week and a half ago. I've never heard word one. I emailed them again saying, what's going on? You told me I'd be getting phone calls on this.
I thought they wiped us off the face of the earth.
It's over 6,000 acres, right? Just in Alstead.
Let's take a look.
has anyone reached out to the Attorney General, the New Hampshire Attorney General?
Well, that's the question. That's what we had posed the question to New Hampshire Municipal Association, with the intention that we should go forward to the New Hampshire Attorney General. So as of this time, no, it hasn't gone that far. So yeah, in Alstead, it's 6,345 acres, which is 25% of our town.
But also, isn't it a matter of a willing seller? Keep telling us.
Yeah.
I mean, if people don't want to sell to them, then
Sure.
Yep.
for now.
And Surrey will tell you that's how it began in Surrey too.
Yeah, 10 years ago, these people only wanted a couple hundred acres in New Hampshire. It only took 10 years to now be, what is it, tens of thousands?
From 37,000 acres to 197,000 acres. That's the proposed increase. Right. That's across 4 states. So anyway, that's about all the update I have on that. File stamp, next steps.
Okay,
No clue.
appointees to the.
Nope. Sometimes when the people that don't, thanks a lot, Marcelo. You're taking off part.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's always interesting when somebody else writes the agenda and they're not here. File stamp, next steps, any comments, questions? Fair enough, we'll keep moving along.
Wait and see. Wait for it to plug up again.
All right, the next line is appointments to the Cold River Local Advisory Committee. So this was just an opportunity to get the word out. Sam Sutcliffe, after many, many years of service on that committee and acting as treasurer, I think for most of them, would like to say farewell to that one and free up a spot, because Alstead is kind of right in the middle of the area that they work with. They feel it would be good to have somebody from Alstead to be on that local advisory committee. So I would just say to anyone in the room or anyone you know who might be interested in doing that, there's an opening available.
What is that exactly? Is it a nonprofit or
It is a
regional
local,
planning thing?
no, it's, I'm not sure if it's Alstead chartered. It is simply an advisory committee made up of citizens from different towns. So there's people from Hackworth, and there's people, I think, from Walpole, and I think from Alstead, certainly from Alstead, that look at the river.
Langley too, I was like.
Possibly, yeah. They work with state organizations, they work with local governments and things like that to do good things for the river. And some of that has to do with repairing damage of how it's flowed before, whether it's clean, they do measurements, they actually have equipment to go out and measure certain levels of certain chemicals in the water and how much water flows and things like that. If anybody is interested, Samsung would probably be a good guy to talk to about that stuff. Better than me, who's taking his way through this as best I can.
What's that guy's name? Mike Hydron?
Yeah, I think that's his last name. But Mike, I know from the meeting.
Yeah. Is that something you'd be interested in?
I'm not sure he's not on that already.
Yeah, maybe so.
And also Mitch from the school.
Mitch Harrison.
Yep, he's on there. I'm trying to remember the chair's name. Give me a moment. Fred Ernst from Hackworth. He's the chair right now. So that's signed grant from EOM update. No clue?
No.
Okay. Maybe this is the emergency. This
That's the
is
EDM. I'm not the EDM part.
EDM.
But the D.
Okay. Oh, it's a teardrop. We're not sure. Okay, we'll assume that maybe this, because I did ask about this, this is whether we would use the grant funds to update our emergency operations plan. Last week I indicated that I wanted to go through and start copy and pasting and try to make corrections to go between the old format that FEMA recommended and the new format. It would be time intensive. Now, I personally would do it for $3,000, but I don't think that is a legit way to spend it. So basically, it would mean that we spend slightly more than what is currently budgeted. There's $2,560 budgeted. The grant is now $3,000 for our portion of it. So it's about a $500 uptake, and I think there is still money within the emergency management budget to cover that entire amount. Just means I can't get the flashing lights for the top of the 400. But I'll put that off till next year.
Another antenna for you.
Another antenna.
Or how about another backpack?
Another backpack. The emergency management backpack, that's a good one. My goodness, wear it in front. So I think that I'm going to recommend we work with that group. Okay. So,
There was never an electronic copy found, was there?
yes,
They did find it?
I found it.
Good.
I'm very happy about that. It doesn't make it that much easier, but it makes it somewhat easier. But it is still, like I said, over 5 years, they've changed the format. It's just kind of a nightmare. Okay, so,
I'm sorry, do we need to provide input to that, or do they just know what they need to do and they'll do it?
they will work with us. They'll basically be the ones that arrange meetings, get together with all the DPW guys. They'll arrange a meeting with the fire department, with ambulance, with all these different groups, set everything up so that all the information
No, the different departments.
We'll give a heads up once we finalize it. But yeah, they had sent a spreadsheet today, basically asking for list of employees, or just basically, not even contacts at this point, but we said director of DPW, and the wage that we're gonna ask for through the grant money is X number of dollars, and they will set up that time. David, or whoever it happens to be, will clock out of their job that they're working on, and then they'll get paid $25 an hour, or whatever it happens to be for the grant rate. So it is of some benefit to the town financially, other than we had to pony up half of it in the first place. And the price went up. Signed grant from Lower Warren Brook Extension. Do we have this is another Cold River local advisory. This is a project that group is working on. It's not. All right, so I did attend their last meeting. And basically there were two schools of thought. Number one, they can't get, the problem they've had, they've raised over $170,000 in matching and in free grants to get this done. And the town has actually contributed money to this project to get it done. And it's been going on for like 5 years. The problem is they get to X number of dollars, they find a contractor to do the work, and 2 times so far the contractor's backed out. I can't remember what the reason was the first time. This last time, the guy just quit returning phone calls after he agreed to do the work. So basically, they went into it again and said, all right, they went to Sean Sweeney, who we work with a lot, who's kind of our local hydrologist. He recommended a company that's out of Massachusetts, actually out of Boston. They have about $170,000 to work with. They came back with a bid of $205,000. Cold River Local Advisory Committee scrambled. They tried to go back to all the people who'd given them grants and can you give us a little bit more here, a little bit more there, to the town. Could we afford to cover $15,000 in trucking costs? David's answer was, we don't have the time this year to get it done anyway. So that's sort of irrelevant. And then we as selectmen basically went back and said, I'm not real confident that we could throw an extra 15 grand in without going over the 3% cap, or whether we should want to. And we all felt that this would probably be better served on a warrant that is part of the budget. So would the voters of the town of Alstead support $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 to go to some work on Warren Brook? The odds of that are pretty slim, no matter how passionately they try to sell it. So the plan they are going through this time is, okay, let's flip that on its head. We have $170,000 that we can spend. Let's see if we can find a contractor who will do it for that, or find out how much of the work could be done for that. Now that's
Back in subsequent years and finish it.
potentially, yes. The concern that Sean has with that from a hydrologist's point of view is it's trying to think of a good analogy. It's sort of like if you redid all the suspension on brakes on the left side of your car. Things probably aren't going to operate exactly as you'd hope they would. And when you're dealing with the course of a river or with a brook, you may alter it in directions you had not intended. I will not pretend to explain I understand hydrology, but that's sort of the general point. You do it as it's designed, or you come up with a new design.
What was the reasoning behind doing it? To widen it, deepen it, or grow fish, let fish live in there, or what was the reason?
There was damage done to it by the flood. The stream itself was altered in where it went.
It's to keep the silt out of the Cold River. That was the big
Is that, okay.
That was the big thing that they told me.
But don't you have silt on a daily basis now going down for Vilas Pool?
I've had a lot to do with fish as well.
And it's mostly in
Have
the
you
cold
tried
river.
fishing there, Rosemary? Have you tried fishing?
No.
Because my argument was the thing dries out.
Really?
That
Yes.
There's no fish living in that brook. There
Right,
hasn't been
that's
fish
why I
living
didn't
in that
understand
brook.
that in the first place, why?
And the answer I got was, it was to reduce the amount of sediment that goes into Cold River for the fish habitat there.
Thus allowing more fish to be there.
Because if you take a brook and it carves away at the bank and it washes, you end up with all this sediment. And if you put little spillways like they did by Griffin Hill, it goes through the vegetation and filters it out. That was the answer pretty much that I got.
Yeah, and there is a considerable part of the plan that involves planting new vegetation. And a lot of that stuff will be done by volunteers.
So it's full of knotweed, isn't it? Japanese knotweed?
And
Oh,
They may have to contend with that too. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There are a lot of people that have been involved in this that are just ready to let it die, just let it wither on the vine.
Well, people have put a lot of time into the planting, and that's good because it restores the bank and the root system.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's not undone by any means, but,
Thank God they
I just-
planted sumac.
yeah, well, and that knotweed is pretty strong too, I mean.
I was in Basin.
yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I don't really have an opinion on this other than, A, I know some people feel it's a complete waste of tax dollars to even be discussing it. I know that, B, a lot of people have been working on this project for a lot of years, and I have no real opinion on it. So it kind of is what it is, and this is what happens when you accidentally go to the wrong meeting. So that's kind of where that's at. And as far as signing the grant, I'm not sure where we're at with that. There's, I guess, grant paperwork pending.
So if the grant money isn't used for that particular purpose, does it go away?
Yes. But there is, I think the Moose Plate grants, they're gonna get an extension on, which is an easy thing to do. So basically, all grants will expire in September of 2016 for that project. So they're getting them all synced up, so if they don't get it done by then, they don't get it done. Or they don't pay out the money by then, they don't get it done. So. And that's kinda it. And then Marcello, we bumped up to the top, and non-public we did beforehand. I would like to open it up to public comments, does that work?
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have any idea of what a new fire truck will cost? I mean, in a range, just how much would that be?
Oh, okay.
A range?
Sorry, hard out. Your wife got on. We're looking probably about $450 for the truck that we're looking at. That's a wild guess right now, very ballpark. Based on what Lemster built for themselves last year, we've added some percent to that. They've given us a rough idea at Valley Fire, but we've got to go out for other quotes. So that's without fine tuning the specs.
And I'm sorry, if I can ask, what's the spec for it? Are we going with a combo truck or?
Combo truck.
Combo truck.
They've cut the cascade off of it, which will make you happy, Rock, I think.
And we currently have what? We have a combo truck now?
No, we have a pumper truck that's 1987, which is lacking in a lot of ways. And we have a rescue truck that's due up, I think, in 2 more years, approximately. Yeah, on the CIP. What year is that? Do you remember offhand? And so the thought was, years, say again? Okay. So you've got a couple of really old trucks, and we have 400,000 roughly in the capital reserve right now. So that the feeling was that to try to do one fire truck now and another one a couple of years down the pike was going to be really difficult to do. And so going with a combination truck, and this is how many departments are going right now, that it just makes a lot more sense from a practicality standpoint. Both for firefighting and for budget purposes.
What's their plan on the Cascade?
They had something they were gonna do with the tanks on the truck, and don't ask me, because it went over my head when they were talking about it. That they'd have something they could use there, but they'd be able to, go back, they'd have either the mutual aid, or they'd be able to go back and get them filled. I'm not sure.
Same way they've been doing for 2 or 3 years now.
They're not using the Cascade?
It's at the station, the East Station. They took it out
Right.
of the truck, right?
Oh, they took it out of the rescue truck?
They took it out of the rescue truck because it was overweight, and that was the biggest thing that was the whole spiel with Clarence and taking it out of service. And so then they removed the tanks so that they would put that rescue truck back in service, and they
So it was fine for 25 years and suddenly it wasn't.
because they wanted the rescue truck.
I have a question. Could you, or not that we would, but could you take $200,000 in that truck and rehab the entire truck for $200,000 rather than buying a brand new one for $4.5?
The old one.
Yeah, the old one, then take $200,000 and put it into the next truck we have to rehab. I mean, $200,000 worth of repairs seems like a lot of money to fix. Rather than paying $450 for a brand new one for the amount that we use the trucks in Alstead. I'm just saying this, I have no knowledge of trucks.
That question has been asked.
The problem is
That thing is just so old.
well,
Yeah.
the capital reserve fund would have to be changed
Right.
to be able to do that.
Is it?
Yeah, but that's just a warrant article. That's just a warrant article.
Either way, I wouldn't put it
For
in
buying.
that old truck.
It's in
For
tough
non
shape.
repair.
The tank leaks like a sieve, it's rusted, it's got a small cab, it's a, what do they call it, a 5.2, the stick shift is old enough that it doesn't mean anything to me in terms of the way it
It's a 2-speed
Yeah.
transmission.
Flipper and,
And, when they joke about how they have old ladies passing them going uphill, so, I think that truck is beyond. The rescue truck, I couldn't speak to that, but I think the thought is by, I hate to use the term killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but that's kind of what it amounts to by buying the combo truck.
Yeah, but if we have 2 stations, a combo truck can only be one place, so you're gonna have to have another truck. right?
Well, they're replacing the 2 trucks that are in the village right now. The rescue truck's been there, and the pumper that's there needs to be replaced.
it's always a good truck.
So I guess I'm confused. They said that they're going to put tanks on the truck or not going?
I'm not sure, Rob, because when they got to that, there was multiple conversations in the room, and I didn't, that was a little bit above my head, to be perfectly
Relying
honest.
on mutual aid is crazy in that situation.
I think there was something else too, that if you're pumping, you can't be using the Cascade at the same time too, so.
True, but, it would seem like we'd be smarter to go for a lesser truck and eventually get another rescue truck.
A lot of times, in a lot of towns, what they're doing is actually putting the Cascade in a trailer, and then they also have a cooling station in the trailer, and that way they can have it far enough away from the fire that they can actually then fill the bottles, cool the guys down. Some of the has one, they showed me, it's a really, really nice setup that they have there. And it's just a simple trailer, they hook up to the back of a truck and bring it to the site that they need to. Walpole's got a Cascade,
Langdon
Langdon
downtown.
has a Cascade, there's quite a few Cascades around. I know Sunapee does service almost all the towns around up that area with theirs, because they just got a nice setup, and Walpole has a really nice setup, Cascade system too. Theirs is not on a trailer, theirs is in their rescue truck.
It's just $450,000 is a number I can't even get my head around.
No, it's crazy.
It is crazy, but
And I'm not saying, but that's just a big number, I don't even know what.
You're right.
Probably look into like a Freightliner chassis for a pumper and all that. We don't need.
oh, I agree.
I was 100% against the one we got now up
Yeah,
there.
the 6-man cab.
I think it's crazy.
Well, the point is, we're getting to the point now, can we afford 2 stations, 2 fire trucks? You're looking at replacing the other one, is gonna have to be replaced or refurbished in another 5 years, technically, if you go by the NFPA, you're talking 20 years. That thing's 15 years old now already.
How much is it if you did a Freightliner chassis with it?
We haven't looked at
Like
that.
an E1 or
We're-
you know what I mean?
Well, that's what they're planning on doing, is getting the specs and sending
Right.
them out to E1, and there's,
Exactly.
kind of
This
a lot of
was
different
a,
things out there.
a totally just I don't want to say arbitrary or random number, but just, an approximation at best, based on what Lemster did and what they were originally talking about. They cut the cascade out, that's going to cut money out. They're looking at reducing trying to decide what the cap size has to be. So we're still very nebulous at this point. So, that number is nebulous. Okay, but I know Lemster paid, theirs is a 2014, I believe it was $395 for a combo truck. I'm familiar with another town that just bought 2 pumper trucks, 2 at the same time, for the tune of $1.3 million. Okay, so, it all depends on what you're looking for, and I mean, we're still nebulous right now. They've got to fine tune all of this stuff, so.
What size do we have now?
So we
In
have
terms of what?
It's 1,000 gallon tank.
No, like somebody was talking about 6 people or,
The one in the east
Well,
is 6 handicap, and it's a Pierce. No push.
what should we have?
That would not be something much less than that.
But that was how many years ago?
2000.
Is it 2000?
Extra tanks and trees.
Yeah.
Well, didn't Westmoreland just recently refurbish one of theirs? Last year we voted into refurbish one of theirs. How old was that one tonight?
You would be, if you want to refurbish one, you'd be looking at refurbishing one that's in the East Station. And then if we reach,
Westmoreland spent it was $60-something thousand that was approved to refurbish their fire truck. It was on their warrant and got approved last year.
But I don't think you can just look at that blindly without looking at what the state of the truck was that was being refurbished
Right,
as well,
exactly.
and how it was kept. I think there's a couple other, one other thing in particular to consider, that we are looking at new ones. There are a lot of markets out there for used ones, which we will continue to keep an eye on, but this is something that we talked about briefly in the last select board meeting, that we need to leave the warrant article open as such that, if one came on the market that was in good shape and not that old and was used, then you look into that too.
right, exactly.
again, go back to what was mentioned about looking at 1 versus 2 firehouses. Are there other towns that we can tap into to cover areas that one of those fire stations currently cover?
Mutual aid is already doing it.
Mutual aid, you're not gonna want that.
Pardon me?
You're not gonna want that here. It is so tough.
So,
To get to parts of this town with 2 stations works. I mean, it does work.
I would, not that I want to quash discussion, but I think a lot of these questions could be easily answered by working directly with the EMSG if you have questions or input, or waiting to see what they come out with, and then a lot of what we continue to bring up has been brought up with them before. It's been brought up by them before. My biggest concern is if the spec requires the cost to be so high that it simply won't pass the warrant. If we've got $400,000 saved up and it comes back with a $480,000 price tag, then it's going to be up to the voters to say, well, we wish to completely drain our capital reserve fund and spend another $90,000 in taxation this year. And I think it's going to be a really, really hard sell. But the EMSG has done a wonderful job of,
I'm not questioning their work. I mean,
no, I'm trying to enlist you to join them.
Thanks,
So,
Al.
the key to public meetings is not to ask too good a question, because then you get volunteers. But, their meetings are public too, and
Yes, there's-
hopefully Rod will get involved in Backward too. I don't go to their meetings usually, but, thanks.
I had a couple other questions before we diverge. Just want to review the budget status. The fire department at this point, you were pretty much okay with the first round.
For a first round. Yeah.
Do you expect them to sharpen their pencils?
I don't see how you could be adding with a low budget and ask for another $17 just because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. And that's where we had asked, specifically, my questions, I wanted to see what the plan for equipment replacement is for stuff that is known to be expiring. jackets and things like that, and then I'm okay, this is just me personally as a selectman, I'm okay with saying, okay, and we're gonna, every year we have an average of 1.4 sets of bunker gear that get damaged, and we have to replace 2 more. Okay, fair enough, then show me that, and then show me that cost. I'm just not a real fan of ballparking expensive stuff.
All right, ambulance was, at this point, you were okay with the drought?
I think that's a fine place for that to go. Yeah.
DPW at this point?
Down.
Still under, okay.
Yes.
And when are they back on the table?
Which I think to really get all these guys back on the table, I think you really need to get all the numbers together.
Yes.
For your first draft and see where you fall
Yes.
on the overall budget, and then go back and say, okay, fine, this is where we need to clip it here, clip it there.
That's the plan. Yeah, but we have not put all that together yet.
So there's no date set for that yet?
Well, let's set a goal for, we have, the fine folks from HR in on the 13th. We have David in on the 20th.
DD's in on the 20th.
PD doesn't take long. Both David and the PD in on the 20th.
Okay.
So we'll have David back on the 20th to present his budget.
Okay, and then what about all the other areas in the budget? That's 4 big areas, but, you know, yeah.
All that.
I think at that point, we're probably gonna want to work more closely with the AABC to get those numbers together, because you guys are out there talking to all the planning and zoning. I will be at the planning and zoning meeting next Monday to discuss their budget, because some issues came up with that. But maybe that would be a good, maybe we should get sort of an ad hoc selectmen / ABC general government group going, and I'll represent us on that if you're okay with that. Sure, go ahead, go to another meeting. Sure.
He's got no kids, that's his excuse, right?
I don't want to go.
So I have a quick question on the highway department. Last year, the budget committee added extra gravel this year for the road. Was that something that was supposed to go in permanently every year? Are you going to be pulling that amount out of the original?
That amount actually went down quite a bit, and actually got placed in the lines that it was supposed to be in. And,
But it was still extra money that was voted on for gravel. I know it went to different projects. Is that what you're saying?
correct, because it was just all lumped into one sum for that line.
So what you're saying is every year it's going to be up that amount?
No, it's not going to be up any amount. Each
It's
year
gonna
he
be
has
any-
projects that he needs to get done. One is the March Hill Road. We have to hire trucks and things like that. And where last year this year I should say, he used the money out of the gravel to hire trucks and to do those projects where when the budget was built last year, those items should have been put in those lines, and then would have been more reality of what it was. Sand and gravel, road sand was way under. Last year, he's over budget on that because we ran out of road sand for the winter. So a lot of those things need to be budgeted properly, and then those lines are come in a lot better.
And that's actually one of the reasons the budget committee's trying to look at different kinds of software so they can do more project direct budgeting rather than just lump sum type budgeting.
Right.
So you can say, okay, this is the Marshall Road project, this is, the Griffinville Road project or whatever. And so it can be broken out by monies to the project and try to be more realistic.
Well, I think this year, when they started the tar project, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but, we thought they were tarring
North Road.
North Road,
Yeah.
and it seemed like they spent a lot of time at the firehouse digging that all out.
And see, that was another project.
We didn't know that was a project.
See, these are the things that I would like to find out about, because this is what you budget for. If we do need to have, 1,500 yards of gravel for a parking lot, then let's do this, let's set it up as a part of the budget line. The other problem is when they are doing those, they're not doing the maintenance on the roads. So that's fine, we get this project done, maybe cheaper by having them do it, but the problem is that
we
So
hired a
it's
lot of
almost-
help out this year for those extra projects
Right.
because it was spent on
Exactly, and this
projects.
is the whole part of the budget, and this is where I'm trying to work with David to have a list of what he wants to get done, put some numbers with it, and then live by those numbers, not just, say, okay, fine, here's another project to do for the summer.
And that's where the selectmen, I think, I mean, we all have lives outside of this, unfortunately, but if it's project-based, we can be better supervisors of the highway department. We can say that, we know we have March Hill, we know we have this road, and we know that we're bound and determined to get all mowing done this year, by X date. It's not only money management, but it's time management, and it's
Prioritizing.
right, it's the prioritization of scarce resources where we feel they're best needed, and that's our job. We're supposed to listen to you, who are the boss. We've got to come up with a plan that fits the money and fits the schedule and figure out how to get it done. And if it's not possible to do, we need to tell you that too. But I think Glenn's whole point about, and Carol discussing, let's make a move towards project-based as opposed to just gross dollar, here's a gravel line item, that's it. Second question is your comment of whether, okay, now is DPW's budget always $70,000 higher compared to years past? This will help us fine tune that number, so I don't think it'll ever be exactly $70,000 higher. It'll be some number either lower or higher. What the selectmen are committed to doing is not proposing a budget that's more than 3% over last year's. We cannot do that. I, for one, I'm good with that. At least I'd like to see a budget that's pretty flat and we just get smarter about how we do things. That's my goal. We come up with ways to be more efficient, we get the same stuff done with the same amount of dollars. But we'll see.
And what we that's easy for, that's not easy for us to say. A focus of the town's budget, but our tax bill is just the town's part too.
Absolutely, that's the part where we have some say.
Right, and there's still plenty of the other portion, percent-wise, that they're saying, so.
Right, school district right now is building their budget for next year.
Yep.
As we speak. I sent you guys an email about the dumpster coming there.
Yeah.
Last week, that it wasn't, even though we fixed it, the
Wasn't
numbers aren't
exact.
going up, and so I talked to Jody real quickly on that. And
Yeah.
she said we just don't have the volume to
Right.
put in there, so I mean,
So
going during the summertime.
more trash.
Right, well, during the summertime, you can see you're gonna have to do it every other, twice a week, because it gets pretty rank when it gets 90 degrees out.
Yeah.
And I can start growing and everything else, but this time of year, I would think we should be able to set up some schedule, that we could possibly do it maybe once a week.
Did she hit that before where they don't do that? Or have they just always ran it when it's the day to run, so we run?
I think right now it's on a habit to run.
Right.
Just,
So I agree with you completely. Once it hits, and it's probably not like a 60-double-degree day, but once it's consistently in the 30s or maybe 40s, then yeah, why not?
Even that's right now, I don't see a problem with doing it, at the current thing. And the reason why I'm going with that is because David always complains he doesn't have help, so if he's running a guy,
Yeah.
loading up a roll-off, taking a Route 12 all the way up to Newport,
I
we're
agree.
talking 3 or 4 hours, and that blows pretty close a day when they're on a 4-day week. By the time they come in, get the truck started, go down there, get the thing, everything else, it's 2 o'clock by the time he gets back. He's not gonna go do anything else.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen, so you utilize those hours better.
We like it to be 3 or 4 hours going like it. Last year it was 6 hours.
What time of the morning do they start?
I believe they start at 6.
Yeah, that was something that came up a couple of weeks ago. Has anything been addressed in terms of that?
This time of the year, they need to go at 5 days.
Yes.
Start later, I mean, it's not light, what are they doing?
Stop in.
There you go.
I'm open for any guidance on that because I've never really understood the whole, I understand the concept, but I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
So if you or Joel were to propose a change, I'd be inclined to just say, maybe you think that's the right thing to do.
Take a vote.
Well, it just seems if they're on 40 hours, I mean, it could start at 7 a.m. It's barely like 10.
Right. Yeah, very shortly, I mean, every day, it's just, it's coming fast. Full darkness is
Work
coming.
5 days a week.
I know during hunting season, stuff like that.
You want to put that in the form of a motion?
You know, with all due respect to hunting season,
Okay.
with all due respect, this is a job they have, we don't make the job convenient to hunting season.
You would think 7 to 3:30 because they get a half an hour lunch, right?
No,
Well,
they
no,
don't
they-
take lunch.
Have they signed?
Well, I'm pretty sure they eat.
When would
Yeah,
they?
but
They do.
I know what you're saying, but they get paid all day long, they don't get paid for lunch hours, and I think we've had this discussion before, where you were suggesting that they sign something saying that they, because technically they're not in a field where they should be able to work all day and get paid for the lunch hour. That's normally like a service type thing, when you are like a cashier or something like that, you have, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but there's nothing to do, you can have your lunch or something of that effect.
The state crew stops on wherever they're at on the job, and they stop for lunch for a half an hour.
Certainly.
It used to be federal law. that you
They're also
had to
doing
provide
it
lunch.
too, so.
Tom, wasn't it HR type thing where it was law that you had to provide a lunch break?
Yes.
Also, we saw a thing about part-time wages, correct? How-
On the budget?
I believe you sent me something.
Yes, and that's why you guys went into executive session last week. But anyways, I know you can't discuss what's in that, but yes, we have a part-time employee that is going to be at full-time if we don't do something about this. So,
Okay.
so anyways, I did give those hours to you guys
Yep.
to remind on that. And my recommendation was to reduce it to 30 for this month. Have them pull more, they're closer to 39 when we really need them, which is winter time. Shoveling and doing stuff like that.
Agreed.
Sunrise is at 6:51 and sunset 6:22.
Well, maybe October 1st, they switch back to 5 days.
So I make a motion, and switch back to 7 to 3.
The motion that we
Three or
compel Department of Public Works are the only ones that follow that, right?
Correct.
DPW to begin their winter hours based on temperature and things like that, not just on a set date. When do they normally do it?
Well, it should be October 1st because of the light.
Okay.
Used to be the first snow.
No,
Yeah,
it's
just-
December to December. First of December.
Okay, well, we'll say that. The motion is effective now, but I think we do need maybe, is there a second? I'll second that. Is there any further discussion first? No more discussion at the beginning of the night? No. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, they're on winter hours.
So that would be, I would do it the next pay cycle, so that way the booking is easier. This part, which I think is the end of this week, right?
Good with that?
That's fine.
In terms of DPW,
Does that include the office?
DPW is the only department that has
That's,
summer hours and winter hours.
well, I know Linda
Oh, Linda has summer hours.
she doesn't work 40 hours, she
They're
has,
just 10 hours all year long.
just the way their system is set up.
was there any input on the trash pay-as-you-go? Have we heard anything back on that?
I haven't seen it.
Last time I heard Joe was trying to get somebody in to come in and talk about it. That's still worth it.
Okay.
Two more things, the 2003 cruiser's up to $60.
260?
$60. So,
Hey, that brought up something. I looked at the town highway vehicles and their other vehicles. Is there a reason we don't oil them under code?
actually, this summer we did purchase the setup to do that quick film, that fluid film there. And I've been kind of after last year to do it, just to try to keep these things from,
Is it, I mean, it's
Just
worth its
raw
weight in
now.
gold.
yeah.
Does Comanche do that?
He does that, but we can do it with ourselves. We can buy a 55-gallon drum. to do a regular car is like
Well, it just seems like these guys are doing, more maintenance, and maybe that's why they're not.
Well, this is the conversation I had with David. Yes, they can do a lot of their own maintenance, but then their guys aren't out working on the road. So this is where I'm trying to sit down with David and try to figure out these times, how many hours he's working on this stuff. And, and yes, it is technically cheaper if we do it ourselves, because we could do,
You only have to do it once a year anyway.
Well, we should be thinking about fire trucks. Everything needs to be done.
Anything that goes on the road, that's going to come up.
So what did we have to purchase to do this?
Basically, it's just a gun that you hook onto your compressor, and they have a couple different ones that will go into the doors and stuff like that. It doesn't creep like oil does. Oil, when you spray on oil, it tends to creep into the seams.
It's good stuff.
Where this basically you have to get it where it's got to go, otherwise it doesn't work very well.
Who is the guy who used to do that?
Esslinger.
Esslinger.
That's why
He had
there's
to
no
drive
wells
through the
up
barn, he had to drive through the barn.
there. That's why
I
there's
did
no
that.
wells up there.
Yeah, I used to do that was cool.
How's the other cruiser coming? The new one?
The new one?
Yeah, it's done.
It was parked downstairs, it's in service. It is not yet lettered, and we have not got a quote on getting that done. The chief says he'd like to use the guy over in Walpole who's lettered all of Walpole stuff. There was one comment from a citizen, which I think was a good point, which was some police departments like to have their vehicles be completely subdued so they can sit in the dark and catch speeders and be good revenue generators for the town. That's never been our focus. So are we going to get it lettered out with high visibility stuff? And I like the idea of high visibility. That lets people know police are around. So we're going to...
Yeah, if you get 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's got to be safer for them. It's... Yeah.
If you get 4 or 5 cruisers, then I could understand maybe a couple would be marked and the other ones,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Hear that, Roger? I know you like the undercover look you're rocking right now, but... I spoke with Roger about the cruiser, and from a practical point of view, it has a lot of benefits, particularly for officer safety, that I think I'm glad we did. That's cool stuff.
You go online and watch the YouTube stuff on it. It's just amazing with that.
Yep.
So I guess I'll be patient then and just sell the other one, so.
Yeah, and in all honesty, yes, please.
Okay.
In all honesty, the lettering and things like that may actually wait till next year as part of next year's budget. So Roger is the incognito for a little bit while.
Why does it need to wait till next year when it's on the budget?
I don't know what the budget, I don't know what the lettering comes in at.
Can't be
I would've thought the lettering was
$40,000, you've got pretty much under that much.
How much do we have?
Well, figure the chief's budget is under probably by a good $40,000.
Okay, they didn't like it this year.
But I think I have to be careful on that with the lettering. I thought it would be included in the warrant article.
You'd have thought.
Well, if it is, then we've already spent it.
Okay.
And if it isn't, we can spend other monies to do so.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. Yeah, police is way down. Question is how far down we want it. All right, any other public comments?
Question, Thursday night, something's on TV, right?
Yes, WMUR at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
I
the
believe.
Alstead one.
Yeah.
So I've been told.
I saw something quickly and I wasn't quite sure on television.
That's what I heard. And then we have something coming up this weekend too, if anyone has the details.
It's Friday, isn't it?
Oh, they're doing that display, I think, yeah.
What's this?
I don't have specifics, so I won't speculate.
Setting up all the stuff, all that stuff from the flight.
Placards and stuff down there.
I think they're the fire station, I think.
The office is closed because,
Give it.
Kelly, you answer Jake's question.
Tuesday, why is the office closed Tuesdays?
Because Linda's on vacation, I have no job. So I'll be here Wednesdays and Thursdays.
So is Gloria open?
I believe so. She hasn't said that her hours would be any different. But I do know she was on vacation. I'm not sure what she's planning on doing with Trish. Gloria hasn't set her hours yet. But we have.
Okay. Regarding that session, do we have everyone in attendance mentioned?
Yes. It's just the two of you, myself, and the paperwork I have.
Okay. Then I believe we will, if no one has anything else. Roger? Thanks for coming. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn. We'll enter into non-public session.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sure.
Thank you for your work, Bill.
Well, thank you.